base is shut down. It'll be shut down until further notice, until we can really understand the situation. But the important thing is that it is no longer an active shooter situation. We do have several deceased and several wounded. My heart goes out to those families of the deceased and of the wounded. They're part of the Navy family. They're part of us, and our heart goes out to those of you who may be affected by this tragedy. As I said, we're working with local, county, law enforcement, and federal entities, and right now I'd like to pass it over to the mayor, see if you have anything further to add.
Captain, certainly this is a tragic day for the city of Pensacola.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan. At approximately 6:51 this morning, the call went out to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office Central Dispatch that there was an active shooter on Naval Air Station Pensacola. We had 2 units immediately respond, many to come behind, of course. While we would love to do a full disclosure with you this morning about everything that we are aware of, quite obviously we cannot do that. There are things that we are now in the investigative process that are required to be held back by not just the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, but our lead federal agencies, which of course are the FBI and the ATF and the associated federal partners that we have, and the U.S. Attorney's Office is also present. As the mayor said, I want to assure our community that the threat has been negated. Our community is secure at this time. We have no reason to believe or are we looking for any additional shooters within Escambia County, not just within the parameters of NAS Pensacola. I would tell you this strikes home particularly hard for me as a retired military member. Walking through the crime scene was like being on the set of a movie. And as the mayor eloquently put, you just don't expect this to happen at home. This doesn't happen in Escambia County. It doesn't happen in Pensacola. It doesn't happen to our friends and neighbors who are members of the United States Navy. But it did, and it has. And so for now, we're here to pick up the pieces. We have 2 officers at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office in the initial response that negated the threat that are now in a local hospital. We expect them to fully recover. It was a member of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office that did negate the threat. I will share that with you. It was one of our officers that did that. As the captain said, we have as of right now, we do have 4 deceased and approximately 8 total. That includes the ones that are deceased, by the way, that are injured. The crime scene processing continues under the auspices of the FBI and the ATF. We are lending all local assistance that we have to this effort. Everything from command buses to crime scene techs if they are so needed. We ask for the prayers of the community, and we ask for the assistance of the press. Please be patient. These things are ever evolving. You may hear a misstatement from one of us at this juncture. Why? Because we've got a lot of moving parts in this machine, and we're all trying to get it in sync. And so if something comes back later that we have to correct, I would ask that you not be overly critical. The reason why I say that is this, is we have grieving families at this moment. That the Navy now, with their grief counselors and with ours at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, are going out to handle the human side of a police action. We need your assistance with that. We need your partnership at this point. And we have enough critics in our community, and we ask that you assist us. So if we reach out to you as a member of the press and ask for that assistance, I ask that you come forward with it. At that time, at this juncture, I will stop, and I believe Captain Kinsella wants to open it for questions. All right, we'll answer any questions that we can.
Before it opened for questions, I just want to say publicly how grateful we are of the assistance from the Sheriff's Department. As the Sheriff said, it was a couple of his deputies that neutralized the active shooter. It could have been a lot worse if we didn't have the response that we did from our local partners. So, sir, thank you. Thank you. And Mayor, thank you for your support, and thank you to the county for your support also. This is a community effort. And so, any questions?
Yeah, was the shooter a military person? Did you say that?
I don't want to talk about the identity of the shooter at this time. I'm sorry.
Can we talk about where on base it happened?
Yes, it happened in one of our classroom buildings.
Which classroom?
It was in well, I don't want to say it this time because there's a lot of worried folks out there that don't know if it was in where their people worked or not, and I don't want to unnecessarily worry folks at this time. So that'll come out in time.
How's the process of notifying the families right now?
Again, we're working through it. We're working through it. I appreciate the question, but we're working through it as best we can to make sure that the right people know at the right time, and we don't do it through the media. But thank you.
Do we know where the officers were shot?
We sure do. Yeah, we do. They were. If you want to take that one, Chief.
Yeah, the two deputies that initially engaged the suspect, one was shot in the arm and one was shot in the knee. The one that shot in the arm is being treated at a local hospital, and the one that was shot in the knee is currently in surgery. Both expected to survive.
What was the response time from when the shots first rang out to, when the deputies engaged?
So I think you should be able to answer that.
Go ahead.
Well, I can tell you we have a precinct nearby. We got the call, as Sheriff Morgan mentioned, about 9 minutes before 7 o'clock, and we had officers here within just a couple of minutes. They quickly went to the location, as the captain said, the building in which the active shooter was, and it covered a couple of different floors. This is a rather large building. The deputies and those assisting agencies from the Pensacola Police Department, FHP, FDLE, and all that you see around here all worked in conjunction to neutralize the threat, and that's why there was not more loss of life.
What is your name, sir?
Chip Simmons, CHIP-SIMMONS. I'm the Chief Deputy from the Sheriff's Office.
How long was the engagement the total time?
Again, I don't have the exact numbers, but I can tell you that it did cover 2 floors from that one building. As Sheriff mentioned, when you get into a scene like that, it is a bit like a movie because you have spent shell casings all over, but the first thing you want to do is to make sure that the threat is no longer a threat. You neutralize that threat, and then secondarily what you want to do is you present aid to the injured, and that's why what we have is we have 8 individuals that were transported to a local hospital. One of those later succumbed to the injuries, and then we have 3 others that remain at the building, and that is part of the active crime scene.
Is this being regarded as an act of terrorism?
I don't even want to speculate on that at this time. I appreciate the question, but it's nothing we want to speculate right now. We're taking care of what we need to take care of. And
I'll speak for law enforcement too. At this time, as the captain said, it's inappropriate to discuss that issue. And again, that would be more appropriately coming from our federal agencies. And when they're prepared to give you an update on the conduct of the investigation and those sorts of questions, they'll release that information.
Sheriff, can we get a little clarification on the numbers here? You said there were a total of 8 people affected by this.
Yes, that is correct.
How many victims are deceased?
We have 4 deceased, Chief.
Including the shooter?
Yes.
That's correct. There are 4 people right now deceased. One is the shooter, and there are 8 people currently at Baptist Hospital. One of them have deceased, and then there are 3 remain at the crime scene. So there was a total of 11 people, 4 of which have deceased. One of those 4 is the active shooter.
And 2 deputies are included in the wounded.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now, how about NAS Pensacola does security exercises throughout the year? I understand they train for these exact types of situations.
Yeah, you bet. We work with our local law enforcement partners to do that. We train on this regularly. Active shooter is something that's very in the front of our minds for our security department when they train. So yes, we do. We train pretty regularly for it.
We have an MOA with NAS Pensacola, of course, where we do joint training, and also part of that MOA is that we are a response unit to assist NAS, and of course that's what was put in place this morning.
It was our security forces. They were the first responders there, and then the sheriff's department came and backed us up.
Can you tell us what kind of weapon the shooter was using?
I cannot. No.
Can you tell us about you say it's in a classroom, I believe? What goes?
Well, this is it's a training base. Almost all of our buildings are classroom buildings, so it would be hard for something like this to happen and not being in that type of environment. But I don't want to say which building it was due to the sensitivity still of releasing information.
Yeah, and if I could, I'll expand on what the reason why folks were reluctant to give some specifics. Notifications have not been completed, so if I or the captain speak any more specific, and you're a mother or father that has a son or a daughter that's in the Navy and they're assigned to the Navy base and they're assigned to this particular training area, families know that. And so now you're going to create, again, panic within these families, and that notification needs to be measured. It needs to come from us, the appropriate agency, I should say, at that time. So we're not trying to be evasive. There's a point to that. It's for our families.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sheriff. And sir, you had a question?
Was the shooting confined to that building or classroom?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Do you foresee this changing security protocol going forward?
And I will say security is an ever-changing, ever-evolving animal. We look at lessons learned from this, and if necessary, we will. We're not a organization in stasis. We learn from events like this to ensure that we do it better. But I will say that I'm very, very proud of the response that my security department had, and I'm very proud of the sheriff's department, what they did. So it's I think it could have been a lot worse if we don't train the way we do to try and minimize casualties in events like this.
And I know you're not able to say that much about the shooter, but did he have business being on the base? Was he supposed to be there?
I don't even want to I don't want to say. I'm sorry.
How heavily armed was he? What was he armed with?
I'll leave that to you.
We're not going to answer any of those specific questions. A press conference will be planned later on this afternoon, and I will also tell you, as part of our protocol, stepping outside the Navy side of it, we have a governor and elected officials that we need to also brief to ensure that they're aware of what occurred at NAS Pensacola. So there's a lot of moving parts in this machine that you will get the information. It's just you won't get all that information right now.
Captain, speaking to the governor and maybe even other federal officials and up to the president, have you heard from any of them?
I sure have. I've heard from multiple officials who have called to both the governmental, state and local to offer their support in any way they can. It's been very comforting to have all levels of government reaching out to us to offer both comfort and support.
What kind of support is going to be given to the victims and their families?
We have procedures in place. We have things that we do to ensure that it is, and again, I don't want to get too far into that, but we have procedures in place. We are the military. We go through this, unfortunately, more often than we'd like for combat casualties or whatever it may be. So our casualty assistance officers will be following the necessary protocols to ensure that we take care of those people within our Navy family and beyond.
Like the mayor can update that question too.
I do wish to say that the governor's office and the White House have contacted us, the city of Pensacola. I know they've contacted Escambia County as well, and said any assets that they have would be available to us. At this particular time, I think that we told them we're all assessing, we're supporting, and we will inform them as soon as we know what those requests would be. But they have been in touch with us, and I know I talked with Commissioner Bender. He said they've also been in touch with Escambia County as well.
Yeah, I've received 2 calls from Senator Scott's office this morning, so trust me, the relationship runs deep here, and this is one of those times. Anything we need, we're going to get. So.
For families who are split up right now, there was a mother who had a 3-month-old who was on the base. She was trying to get. What information do you have for when people will be allowed back on base?
Again, the base is secure. The number of people that have been injured, transported, have been reported to the community now, not named specifically, but I would assure everyone that if you had a family member that's directly involved with this, that is local, you're going to be notified very quickly. And again, that's why we want to allay most of those fears. Those, again, who have suffered, the deceased, if you will, and the victims, that will take a little bit longer. But I'd let Captain Kinsella speak specifically.
Thanks for asking that question. As I mentioned, the base is the base is shut down for until further notice. Sorry. The personnel that are on base now, we're working at getting them off base in an orderly manner. They are going to stay in place and remain in place until we can get them off the base in an orderly and safe manner. And we'll be notifying those people building by building using the appropriate chain of command to ensure that we have an orderly evacuation of the base of those personnel that we need to get off and need to get home to their loved ones.
Sheriff, your 2 deputies who were hurt, were they shot?
That is correct.
Okay. By the active shooter?
We're not prepared to release that information at this time. Shots were exchanged.
About how long will the museum on base be closed?
Until further notice. Yeah, I can't say. Okay. I think I'll wrap it up.
I think in relations to the question you asked about the deputies being shot, as horrendous as this event has been, and as much as our thoughts and prayers goes out to those victims, I think that it's also important to note the heroism that took place this morning, and that was from the Navy police, the DOD police, the Escambia County Sheriff's deputies, again, 2 of which got shot doing this response, but also our partners with the Florida Highway Patrol, the Pensacola Police Department, obviously our state and federal partners. So again, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that they got here in short order. They neutralized the threat, and again, as I mentioned before, so that there's no further loss of life. So let's just keep that in the back of our mind, as well as the thoughts that to those that are injured, and certainly to the family of those who lost their lives this morning.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chip.
And sir, there's also a mother back there who has a 3-month-old still on the base that she was trying to get to.
Yeah, he just asked that question.
Okay. She had a 3-month-old she was trying to get to.
We'll if I can talk to you after this, and then we will take care of that.
Sure.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you all very much.